In the 19th century, Holy Trinity was seen as the spiritual heart of Tunbridge Wells. We can only wonder what these gentlemen would have said when the town's first parish church became a theatre less than a century later.
I think everybody loves Trinity because it is a friendly place to come to. Everybody is included, from young children who come in for the story time on a Friday morning, right through children's shows, family shows, right through to seniors who can come in and find something here as well. So the whole community really is catered for.
It's somewhere that I can just feel safe and forget about everything else.
I just think this is such a unique place with lovely people at its heart.
Well, it's the place where we got married, and that will be, in our hearts forevermore, won't it?
Yeah.
An essential feature of the Tunbridge Wells scene.
As we embark on this journey to discover Trinity's story, we enter a new space, a place not visited for decades, a tower filled with mystery and time travel. Our journey begins in the 20th century.
Church was commonly the centre of social life when there were less organised entertainments around, again pre-welfare state, very much a centre for social care, for volunteering. A lot of the impetus for early health care in Tunbridge Wells.
It was very much the mother church of Tunbridge Wells originally, and it continued to have that status.
Well, since the First World War has a very direct impact on people as it did universally. There are a lot of local people sadly lost their lives in the war. Yeah, they had the great thing with the war to end all wars, with the First World War, and then a few decades later we're into it again. Things do change after the war because there's more things to occupy people's time. Obviously, the welfare state has taken over a lot of those caring roles.
Each year, on Corporation Sunday, all the councillors would troop across the road from the town hall into Trinity for the civic service after the mayor making. That arrangement all went rather pear-shaped when there was a Roman Catholic mayor, Councillor Woodland, and then there were questions of to what extent his chaplain would be allowed to contribute in this otherwise Anglican procedure. So I think that probably was rather the end of it being the civic church. It was already suffering from being a town centre church that had spawned all these parishes of St James and St John's and St Peter's in residential areas, and that's where the people that lived there tended to go to their local church rather than to the town centre.
The thought of it being pulled down really hurt at the time. We used to come back here after we got married, to the evensongs, and it didn't last long because, they finished up having it in the old school at the back here.
I was chairman of the Civic Society in 1972 when the church ceased to be used as a church. So that raised the worry, well, what now? A committee was set up under the chairmanship of Lord Evans. I was on that committee together with Dick Greenslade and Laurie Holiday, two people that succeeded me as chairman of the Civic Society. We had teamed up with the drama club.
We knew that we wanted, as a group, there was more than just the drama club in Tunbridge Wells. There were pantiles players, the occasional players, the venture players. There was a lot of drama going on in Tunbridge Wells, a huge amount. So the demand was there. We knew the demand was there.
We did establish from the church commissioners that they would be comfortable with a theatre. We managed to persuade the church commissioners that there was public support and financial support in some measure that amazingly enough satisfied them. We had won that battle, but we still had to win the war, which was the matter of getting the building restored and turned into a theatre. There were two key figures in it all. One was Laurie Holiday, a pretty competent businessman, together with another Civic Society committee member by the name of Herbert Story. He was a former inspector of schools. Those two gave up 10 years of their life to seeing this thing through, really. Herbert, with his educational background, had the inspired notion of involving the West Kent College. We scrounged seats from a redundant cinema in Brighton. Everybody was pleased and relieved, I think, that the building was saved and appeared to have a future. I came in 1982 to a production of Gamma Gurton's Needle by the medieval players, which was absolutely terrific. They were absolutely turbocharged with enthusiasm. The audience loved it, and it was full and it was well received.
Now let us climb higher and go back a little further. We now enter the Victorian era, where the church was at the centre of Tunbridge Wells life.
There's a quote by John Ruskin in 1856 regarding the Tunbridge Wells waters. It was this little Stane which was the builder of Tunbridge Wells. Stane because of the iron-rich waters, and we wouldn't be here without it. There was a very great mixture of people. There were a lot of wealthy people who came to live in the lodging houses and take the waters. But alongside that, there would have been all the people who worked for them. So it would have been a real mixture of lots of different people living here.
Tunbridge Wells was very popular as a place of retirement for people who had served in the sort of colonial administration or in the military. So that shaped the social fabric of Tunbridge Wells. The other thing, I suppose, is the growth of new technology as well. So you've got the introduction of the railway, and Tunbridge Wells was on the railway quite early on, from 1845, 46. Trinity had a legendary minister who was Canon Edward Hoare. And he had a sort of huge influence over the general sort of moral tone of the town.
Canon Hoare, who was a very forceful incumbent here for a very long time, people came to be within his ministry.
He was also a great philanthropist, so he was very involved in charitable work, and obviously in a very much pre-welfare state era where everything was relied on private charity. He was sort of involved in the early developments which led to the first hospitals in Tunbridge Wells. He was also very keen on education, so Trinity, like most of all of the parishes which proliferated obviously afterwards in Victoria and Tunbridge Wells, and they all had their own schools.
There's a memorial to him, a Grade 2 listed memorial on Culvedon Park Road, so he's still sort of within the public eye. A lot of people have written about him, so he's not forgotten.
It's time to take our final climb. Let's find out how Trinity came to be the first parish church of Tunbridge Wells.
After the Napoleonic Wars, you have a period of unrest, and the Prince Regent at the time decided in one of his announcements that there ought to be more churches in the country.
Godlessness and revolution were a worry, and it was thought that more churches would be helpful socially to calm revolutionary thoughts. And there was a public meeting arranged in 1824 when it was decided that Tunbridge Wells needed a new church.
There was a committee that was set up of local residents
and decided that they should go forward and apply to the Church Building Commission for a grant towards building a church here. And they raised a subscription going.
Trinity Church was what we call a commissioner's church, and the commission actually appointed Decimus Burton as the architect for this church. Decimus Burton, I would say, is kind of a unique character. He was an architect, born 1800, died 1881. And he's one of the very, very few architects that actually practiced in the Georgian, Regency and Victorian periods.
And so, on the 17th of August 1827, Trinity's foundation stone was laid. The rest, as they say, is history. It's now time to take leave of the founders of Trinity, and indeed its saviours, and explore what the future holds for this beautiful building. We do more of what we're good at and less of what we're bad at. So we are going to be doing more participatory work, more work with young people, more work with our youth theatre, more work with schools, more work with adult groups, with SEND groups, and doing that but not at the expense of still having a really exciting and engaging artistic program. So visiting companies, cinema, we've got a fantastic cinema. We'll use the arts as a tool to help people achieve their personal and creative potential. So for every £1 that's invested in Trinity, we generate £6.22 worth of social return on investment, which is really exciting. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean revenue, but it helps people achieve better communication skills, a greater sense of community, develop their creative skills, develop their confidence, and that's what we want to be able to do, as well as people having a good time through coming to see Jack D or Ruby Wax on the stage. Thank you for watching the journey of our wonderful building. As you've seen, Trinity has been reimagined over the centuries by the wonderful people of Tunbridge Wells. We're excited for what comes next and hope that you will join us for our next act.